I'm Jessica Lee. I am a meteorologist at the Louisville National Weather Service, and today I will just be talking about how we have utilized the new ArcGIS Dashboards Beta along with arcade expressions to create just some real-time dashboards that can provide critical weather information to our partners. Okay, so our office is relatively new to the world of ArcGIS Online, which I'll just call AGLL. From here on out, and we originally started by doing like story maps of event reviews of historical weather events in our area and significant recent events, and we have since started to move in to the world of creating these weather dashboards that can provide decision support services and situational awareness displays for our partners. So just before I move on, I want to give a quick definition of what decision support services are, as that can be a bit ambiguous sounding. So basically, decision support services are forecast, advice, and interpretive services that we can provide our partners to help them make decisions when weather may impact the lives and livelihoods of the general public. So basically, it's our job to make sure that these decision makers have accurate and reliable weather information available to them so they can make these decisions. Some ways we can do this is we can do it through remote support, such as emails, phone calls, webinars, and we can also provide on-site support to our partners at like emergency operations centers. But overall, the hope with our operational weather dashboards is that they will just allow our partners to be able to self-monitor current conditions and maintain situational awareness, while also being able to rapidly assess the near-term hazards and anticipate mitigation steps. So this has been especially important as we enter the world of COVID-19 and doing things more virtually, just having these online tools that our partners can use to monitor the weather themselves. And so if you're not aware, ArcGIS dashboards are configurable web apps within the AGLL platform. And they provide key insights to your data on a single screen using things such as interactive charts, gauges, maps, and other visual elements. And then earlier this year, a newer version was released, ArcGIS Dashboards Beta. And the big thing for us is that the Dashboards Beta now includes arcade capabilities within the list and indicator elements. So we've really been able to use that to just make our data a lot more user-friendly and accessible on the dashboards. And then if you're not familiar with Arcade either, it's the expression language written for the ArcGIS platform. And with Arcade, users can perform mathematical calculations, they can manipulate text, evaluate logical statements, and you can do all this even if you do not own the data, which has been key for us since we're working with a lot of data layers that we do not own. And so, before it was added into dashboards, we were using Arcade mostly within our maps to enhance our pop-ups and create labels. But now that it's been introduced into Dashboards Beta, again, we're just using that to help bring attention to specific information within our dashboard. And then one final note, just about our maps and dashboards. All the layers that I've used within our maps are pre-existing public layers within AGLL, most of them owned, as you'll see, by NOAA GeoPlatform, which is kind of like the Weather Service's official data source for GIS layers. And so if you're ever interested in making your own weather dashboards or something similar to this, then just know a lot of the data you need is already out there, and NOAA GeoPlatform is a great resource for that. So the first dashboard I want to talk about today is the SAFER dashboard, and SAFER stands for Situational Awareness for Emergency Response. And so this was originally started by Jared Allen at the Cheyenne, Wyoming Weather Service office. And since then, it has gained popularity across much of the agency, and a lot of the offices, such as us here at Louisville, have started our own versions of SAFER, just kind of creating and customizing our own versions. But basically, SAFER was created to be just a multitude of tools and data sets that can be used to rapidly analyze and assess different weather hazards, all the way from the big national picture all the way down to the hyper local scale. And so this is, our main Safer dashboard right here, and we have all these tabs along the top, because really this is a tab story map with a bunch of dashboards within it. But today I'll just be focusing on the StormSafer, the 24-hour storm reports, and the air quality tabs for just kind of highlighting how we have used ArcGIS to really bring our data to life. So we'll go ahead and start right here with our StormSafer tab. So right away, your eyes are probably drawn over here where we have our indicators in the bright red, yellow, and green, and those just represent the current number of tornado, severe thunderstorm, and flash flood warnings within the map window. And then to the left of that, we have lists displaying each of those current warnings. And for each warning, we can then display the office that issued it, the issuance time, the expiration date, and then how many minutes left until the warning expires, just for some basic quick situational awareness stuff right on the front screen. And then over here in the map viewer, at the bottom, we have all watch warning advisory products issued by the Weather Service. And this was, I had taken screenshots during the remnants of Hurricane Sally moving through, just so we actually had things to look at. But yeah, so we have all of our watch warning advisory products, and then we have current radar imagery overlaid. These little symbols are the 24-hour local storm reports. And then our very top layer is the current tornado, severe thunderstorm, and flash flood warnings. And we've tried to kind of customize the way those look so maybe they can pop out a little bit against the sometimes noisy background. So this is hopefully a little animation that you can see that should just keep playing. So we've worked a lot to make easy to read pop up on all of our maps, pretty much anything you could click on, hopefully. And so this animation just shows here that you can click on any of the warnings within the list view over there, and it will zoom into that warning. And as you see, the lists and indicators update because you can have those update as your map moves around. And then you can see a little more information about the warning, but then there's a link within all of our pop-ups pretty much where you can click to go get more information. So this will take you to the actual full text product of the warning, so you can see all the specific information included within the specific warning. So here I'm just going to kind of provide an example of how ArcGIS was used to enhance the original layer, which again we don't own, but with ArcGIS we can actually make it a lot more useful. So if you look at the data in the table, right away probably much of it isn't super decipherable, not fun to look at. You probably can understand tornado warning, but other than that, not a lot that you can easily glean from it. So starting with like the warning ID, all of our warning IDs will have this 3-letter identifier, which will kind of stand for what action we've taken on the warning. So con means continued, new means new, ext means extended, can means canceled. So we can write arcade expressions to then spell that out fully within the pop-up, just so you are aware, oh, this warning was just canceled, this warning was extended, this is a new warning. Just to provide some extra details. Something else we can do with the weather forecast officer or office identifier. A lot of people probably have not memorized all the weather service offices 3-letter identifiers, and so if you just saw a warning was issued by ILM, you'd probably be like, where in the world is that? And so again, with ArcGIS, we can then just define all of those. That way within our pop-ups and within our list, you just see that it was issued by Wilmington, North Carolina, and that just helps quickly give a little more geographical context to where this warning is in relation to where you are. Something else with ArcGIS, the issuance and expiration times are originally in this pretty clunky date format. It's also in UTC, which a lot of people don't want to be doing that conversion on the fly. So with ArcGIS, we can then convert that to the user's local time and put it in a little more friendly of a format. And again, now that we have ArcGIS capabilities within dashboards, we can do that over here in the list and within the pop-up. And then we can also create, quote unquote, new data. And we can use simple math expressions to just display how many minutes by subtracting the current time from the expiration. We can show how many minutes are left in that warning, just again for that added situational awareness. Some other tabs within our StormSafer dashboard, we include, well, I've zoomed in on it here, but we have the day 1 through 3 of Storm Prediction Center severe weather outlooks. And so if you were to click here in the yellow area, this will be the pop-up you would see. And we can define, yellow is slight risk, and we can match the text to the color you clicked on just for that added cohesion. And then we can display the broad definition if you're not very aware when you come in this map what maybe the SPC, what their categorical risk stands for. We can define it there for the user. And then at the bottom, we can include this image that will then show, okay, you're here yellow and you're at a 2 out of 5. And then with most things, you can click on here and it will take you to the full Storm Prediction Center Outlook page. So here's the original data table for this layer. And again, not a whole lot of useful information just right off the bat. And so really everything we want is contained within this DN field. And so by using archaic expressions such as the one shown over here, we can easily equate that to what it actually means so people can understand. And 4 equals slight, and then we can use similar expressions to then define our text color and also define the definitions that we want to use over here for each category. So now I will move on to the next tab, which is our local storm reports tab. As the name suggests, this map displays all of the local storm reports that National Weather Service offices report within the past 24 hours. And then to the left over here, we have a list of all the most recent ones sorted in chronological order. And then on the right, we can have indicators of what I would consider to be the most prevalent and frequent storm types, especially in the summer months. And then as we move into winter, we can adjust these to more snow-related ones. So this is another little animation here of how you can actually filter these maps. And as the maps filter, your list and indicators will also update. So you can filter by report type, and you can select as many as you want. So if you just want to look at wind and hail reports, you could do that, and all the additional information would update. Or if you just wanted to sort it and only look at Kentucky reports, you could do that as well, and all the lists would update. So that can be really useful if you're kind of looking for more specific information within this larger field. So similar to other maps, if you were to click on a report within the window, it would zoom into it and the pop-up would display. And then within the pop-up, we've provided some additional information. You can see the source of who reported that information to the Weather Service. So was it emergency management? Was it the dispatch call center? Or was it the fire department? And then any additional details that the Weather Service was given would also be included within the pop-up. So if you're trying to monitor reports that are happening upstream of your location, or if you're just trying to see what's going on around you, this is a great tool to see exactly what's happening. So looking at the data table again, the original data, one of the things I want to point out is the storm reports come with this magnitude field, which only applies to certain types of reports, such as like heavy rain and snowfall and thunderstorm wind gust, and those would have an associated value with them of what was measured. But in the data table, it's unitless, and so when you're trying to make an user-friendly dashboard, it's like, well, ideally we would want to put some units so it's 5.15 inches and not just some magic number that they came to. So using archaic expressions, we can do that within both the list and the pop-up. And then again, we can take this kind of jumbled time format and we can make it into an easier to read time format. And then we can also create this hours old field to include within our pop-ups, again, just by doing some simple arcade expressions, subtracting some of the times. And, that way, if you're clicking around a map, you can see, oh, this report was actually from yesterday's storms. It's 24 hours old. Or, wow, this report's 10 minutes old. This just happened. So that can help there. So this is just a side-by-side comparison of what the list looks like without Arcade and how it looks with Arcade. And so over here we see with Arcade, we can add these new symbols with Arcade. And so, I've defined it to be 30 minutes. So any report that's within the last 30 minutes will have new next to it. That way it just kind of catches your eye and you can be like, okay, this is the most recent. These are the new things that are coming in. Whereas over here, it's kind of hard to differentiate the times, especially since the time is in that kind of harder to read format. And then, I mentioned how we can add units, but we can also take away. So you notice all the zeros over here on the list, and those are all just because that field doesn't have any kind of magnitude associated with it. And so we can actually set up definitions within Arcade to then just display a blank field. That way we're not looking at a bunch of zeros because it can kind of detract from the information. And then finally, I'm just going to go over our air quality tab quick. This was taken with the wildfires over on the West Coast a couple weeks ago. And so obviously a lot of air quality issues over there. And so looking at the original data, similar to the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, pretty much everything we want is actually coded to this grid code. And so again, we can use these Arcade expressions to equate the number to what we actually want it to mean and display. And so, you click on the 6, the hazardous, it'll display hazardous, and then you can also relate it to the color that you want. That way the colors, again, will match the map, just for all of that consistency to make it as easy to understand for the user. And again, if you click on the red area, see our red unhealthy displaying. So the other dashboard I'm just going to discuss quickly today. This was designed to be more of a general forecast overview dashboard and just help people monitor the weather. So it doesn't have a name like SAFER does, but I'll just call it our weather monitoring dashboard. And this was actually, if you were at Kent's talk earlier, this idea was kind of originally started with the intent of collaborating with them, so that way maybe they could have an easier way to just quickly monitor the weather. And we originally had tried to have the test sites on here, but after losing access to that layer, it didn't really work. But we now keep it as just kind of a general monitoring dashboard that can be used. And so we see the base map here is pretty similar to the StormSafer base map that we saw earlier with all of our watches, warnings, advisories, our radar. But now we've also added all of the Kentucky Mesonet sites and all of the METAR sites within Kentucky to display on the map, and then we can have the current temperature and wind speeds labeled on there. And then hopefully you can see the quality well enough, but here this one says like 11 gust 17. And so with Arcade expressions and the labels, we can actually combine both the wind speed and the wind gust fields if the station is reporting wind gusts. Because wind gusts will really be most impactful for outdoor events and outdoor event monitoring and stuff like that. So. And then over here on the left at the very top, I have a section where we can add personalized forecast information for the user. And this is just kind of where we could highlight any upcoming weather hazards that will pose the greatest risk to them. So on this particular day, we were highlighting the risk of brief tornadoes and heavy rainfall issues. And then below it, we have what we call our graphical hazardous weather outlook table. And so basically this just kind of gives a look at potential hazards and their level of risk over the next 7 days. And so this can just be used for at-a-glance assessment of the hazards that will pose the greatest risk to you. So, this right here kind of tells us, okay, we're going to have storms today, and pretty much all forms of severe weather we're going to at least have a limited risk for. And then we can see that by the end of the week, maybe some chances for some thunderstorms will return. And then just the bottom of the map here is just the list of current weather observations within the current map window. So another animation here, hopefully it's showing up okay, but just shows that, if you want to click within a site within the current weather observations, it will zoom you into that specific site, pull up the pop-up, and then it says, for hourly forecast, click here. So for each specific site, we can code those URLs to then link directly to that latitude and longitude, and you can see the hourly weather graphs for that location. So this is a great tool. Again, if you have sites that you're trying to monitor all over the state or something, this is a great way to just have personalized forecasts for each state just right there at the click of a button. And then just a little animation to show off what the graphical hazardous weather outlook table does. I know it goes kind of quick, but basically, so the colors within the squares there on our table, those correlate to the highest level of risk within the map area for that day and that hazard. And so, you know, you click on the lightning for today, and it pulls up that map. And if you look quick enough, you see that the yellow's in western and eastern Kentucky. So that's kind of just showing there's a limited risk of lightning for that day in those areas. And then obviously, if we were getting up into the oranges and reds, we would have a lot more colors on the map just to highlight where the greatest threat areas would be. And we've actually, we just got the statewide map working yesterday, and it's not the prettiest right now because we still have some things to finish configuring on it. But so that's kind of the new tool we can use just to be more user-friendly for the entire state. Okay, and then finally, the last thing I just want to show here is a comparison of our weather observation list without Arcade and with Arcade. And so without Arcade, you see that we can't really individualize or customize any of the highlighting colors. And so they all just have to be one generic color, which doesn't help the information pop as well as it could. And then we also see that our wind information is in kilometers per hour, and I'm a meteorologist and I don't even like dealing with kilometers per hour. So again, easy thing. It just takes one line of Arcade code to then convert that entire column of information over to miles per hour. And we can do that with the wind speed and the wind gust just to make those a lot easier to read. And then something that I did only within the pop-ups, so not on the list, but you could also then equate the wind direction. You could change it from degrees to just being the actual direction it is, so it would display, you know, north or south instead of, you know, 0 degrees or 200 degrees. And then the main thing that we can do with Arcade within our current observation list is we can color code these and use the same color coding that the graphical hazardous weather outlook uses. So, you know, green means no risk really with those values. Yellow starts to show a limited risk. So, you know, if it was going to be like a really hot day and you were having an outdoor event, you know, these might start to turn to the red and purple just to show, okay, this is going to be a pretty big hazard that you need to be aware of today. Or again, with outdoor events, as the wind speeds start to pick up or the wind gusts, those would change from the greens into the more of the yellows and the oranges. And since the list is sorted by wind gusts, you know, those would pop up and you would really be made aware of that, just like, okay, I need to keep an eye on our wind speeds. They're picking up into that unsafe level. And so, you know, we can customize those thresholds for the user, but for now we're just using standard impact thresholds to highlight those. So with that, hopefully this presentation has helped demonstrate some of the capabilities of ArcGIS Dashboards Beta and Arcade that maybe you were not aware of before. We at the Weather Service are very excited about this opportunity to try and enhance our decision support services to our partners, as well as create these situational awareness weather dashboards for their uses. In the future, we hope to continue improving and building upon our current dashboards and their capabilities, and hope that we can continue to tailor them to the needs of our partners. And so we also hope to expand the availability and usability of these among our partners as well. So if you'd like to talk with me any more about the dashboards or have any ideas or suggestions to share, feel free to reach out to me. That's my email there on the screen. And then also feel free to follow our office on Facebook and Twitter at NWS Louisville. So thank you for your time, and if there are any questions, I can go ahead and take those.
Yeah, we have about 6 minutes left for questions, so just feel free to unmute yourself and ask Jessica your question.
Hey Jessica, this is Nicole Grams from Esri St. Louis. I don't have a question. I just want to say I work with agencies across 7 different states, Kentucky included, And this is the best example I've seen of Arcade used in Dashboards Beta so far. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I was, the spring before it came out, I saw that it was coming, and we were just kind of waiting because, you know, we've used Arcade in our maps to do all these time and unit conversions, and then our partners were like, that's great, but then on the dashboards, you know, when our warnings, you know, the time is in UTC and they can't read it, and it doesn't make sense. So we were actually very excited when these capabilities came out, so we could really make our displays pop better.
I love it. Fun midnight project.
Yes.
Got about 5 minutes left, so probably a couple more questions. All right, if we don't have any more questions, I guess we can go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, Jessica. It was a great presentation, and I'd have to agree with Nicole that it was a great example of Arcade, one of the best that I've seen so far, because we've been interested in using Arcade as well in our organization. So it was a really good example of that.
Thank you.